Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're setting aside the usual frameworks, the spreadsheets, and the models. We're going to be exploring a different kind of landscape, an internal one, which is, I think, often far more complex and sometimes more treacherous than any market or galaxy we could map.
That's a really good way to put it, yeah.
This deep dive is, well, it's deeply personal. It centers on this quiet, heavy sorrow that can just sit beneath the surface of everyday life.
Right.
So we're going to be navigating the territory of internal pain, of this feeling of quiet loneliness, and the just, immense, aching weight of all the things we leave unsaid.
And our mission today, I think, is a really sensitive one. It's profoundly human. We're looking at what happens when the deepest aches, the deepest pains, they never really manifest as screams or, visible grief.
They just stay inside.
They stay inside, they settle within the body as this dense, invisible weight. We're looking for that fundamental silent transformation that happens inside a person.
The kind that makes you feel like you're no longer the same person.
Exactly. Even when everything on the outside, the world around you, seems stubbornly, painfully unchanged.
And to guide us, our sources are. There are the highly vulnerable writings of Vanina Vergara. She's known to many in the English-speaking world as C.V. Vergara.
Yeah.
She's a writer born in Asunción, Paraguay, a mother of 3, and her reflections. They just capture what she calls the quiet ache.
That's such a perfect phrase for it.
It really is. And this isn't, about an acute tragedy. It's a disorienting, sustained feeling of misalignment. So this dive, for us and for you, is really a journey into that vulnerability.
And I think it's important to frame this not just as, literature, but as a kind of a social inquiry.
I think so.
Well, Vergara's work gives us a language for a very, very common experience, this erosion of self that happens when pain is just consistently internalized.
So we're going to trace that path.
We'll trace it from that initial emotional burden, see how it becomes a physiological manifestation, and then look at the really difficult but necessary steps toward reconnection and self-reclamation.
Okay, so let's unpack where this journey begins with what she calls the weight of the unmended heart. Vergara introduces this stunning paradox right away. She says, sorrows that never scream, yet they weigh.
And that distinction is it's crucial.
When we think of sorrow, we usually picture something loud, right? Visible loss, a funeral, a public cry. But this is something else entirely.
It is. It's like a low-frequency hum of suffering that's just always on in the background.
Yeah.
Because acute grief, that screaming sorrow, it often activates external support systems. People bring you casseroles, they call you, they check in.
Right. Society has a script for that.
It has a script.
Yeah.
But the quiet ache, it doesn't. It's an internal chronic load that you have to carry, often without any external validation or even acknowledgement.
And she describes this weight settling not just metaphorically, but physically.
Yes. Upon one's shoulders, restricting one's breath, exhausting what she calls the weary soul.
That phrase, weary soul, really hits home.
It's because the energy isn't being spent on grieving and moving through it. The energy is being spent on holding it in, and that is infinitely more exhausting.
And what's so fascinating is the causes she brings up for why life stalls in this painful stillness. They aren't these huge singular events.
No, they're not. They're these repetitive, draining relational failures.
Like the son who never calls. That's one she mentions.
Which isn't a single event. It's a sustained absence. It's an ongoing, mild rejection that happens every single day he doesn't call. It's a wound that's reopened constantly.
Or the father growing old who's fiercely clinging to habits that are just clearly destroying him.
And that highlights the immense burden of helplessness, doesn't it?
Completely. You're just watching it happen.
Exactly. The exhaustion there doesn't just come from the tragedy of what's happening to the other person. It comes from the dawning realization of your own powerlessness.
I can't fix this.
You can't. And when you love someone and you see them actively damaging themselves, you get caught in this painful loop. You intervene, you retreat, you hope, you grieve over and over again.
And that has to create a huge cognitive load.
Tremendous. Just the endless mental rehashing, the planning of conversations will likely fail, the guilt over what you think you should do versus what you can do.
And she captures that internal conflict so perfectly. She describes herself trying simply to breathe while being caught somewhere between love and sorrow.
It's an emotional tightrope walk.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who's a primary caregiver or just deeply connected to a loved one who's struggling, They understand that feeling implicitly. You don't even need to explain it.
It's that effort, the effort to reconcile the sheer amount of love you have for someone with the immense sorrow that's being caused.
By distance or addiction or self-destruction. The weight comes from offering your heart, your whole heart, only to find that your love, however pure or strong it is, it can't fix someone else's fractured life.
And that boundary, that recognition of what you can and cannot fix.
It's excruciating.
Yeah. And the inability to fix it is what leaves your own heart, as she says, unmended.
That tension of carrying so much emotional responsibility while being completely unable to affect change, it's just so draining.
And the Source gives us this brief, it's beautiful, but also heartbreaking, this moment of contrast, a temporary lifting of the weight.
The trip to Uruguay.
The trip to Uruguay with her husband and his parents.
This passage is it's pivotal because it shows us what rest actually looks like in the context of chronic emotional labor. It's not just about not working.
What is it, Ben?
It's about a state of being. She describes observing her in-laws. They're 89 and 87, and they're still caring for each other. There's this image of profound quietude, you know? Two fragile souls, their eyes are soft with time, and they're just operating so far outside the frantic agency of our modern clock.
So what was it about their stillness that was so impactful? What was she seeing that gave her system such deep, unexpected relief?
I think she was seeing the opposite of her own burdened state. She saw this enduring, non-demanding love. Their relationship, I'm sure it was imperfect, but it was characterized by this shared acceptance of decline. And a quiet presence. It wasn't about fixing, it was about being with.
So in their gaze, she felt rest.
Yes. A sense of permission to let go. A silent assurance that she didn't need to be strong all the time. That existence itself and its shared fragility was enough. It was a momentary release from the hypervigilance that her own troubled connections required of her.
So it wasn't just a vacation from her house, it was a vacation from that emotional state.
Exactly. It was seeing proof that this kind of unconditional, low-demand connection was still possible in the world. A sensory moment of safety.
So her nervous system just registered peace for a second.
Precisely. It was a temporary reduction of her allostatic load. That's the physiological cost of chronic stress. For a brief moment, her body registered co-regulation and safety.
But the Source is so clear that this rest was momentary.
Oh, painfully so. The immediate return home brought back the crushing reality of her own emotional landscape, and with it, that relentless, quiet loneliness.
And this loneliness is what makes the unmended heart so unique. It's such a profound paradox. Vergara says it has nothing to do with being alone.
Right. It's not about being physically solo. It's the hollow feeling that no routine, no interaction, no family dinner can truly fill.
Why not?
Because it's the loneliness of the person who has internally changed, who carries this heavy load, but that change isn't being reflected or seen by the people closest to them.
So you're surrounded by people, but you feel the air slicing through you.
That line is just chilling. It's a symptom of profound disconnection. The internal vacuum where your true self, your weary soul, feels utterly unseen even when you're being physically hugged.
And sometimes the closest people in our lives are the last to notice that depth of internal change we've undergone.
And that distance, that gap in perception, is what creates that slice of cold air.
And it's those painful disconnections, these deficits of recognition, they're often what lead to the heartbreaking in the first place.
Which brings us right to the second pivotal section, the cracks and the silence that sickens us.
Right. This section really deals with the moment that the rupture happens and how that damage just persists. Vergara describes a small argument, and it hurt intensely, she says, disproportionately so.
Because it wasn't about the words being said in that moment.
No. The Source explains that the argument was about everything that never was.
What a powerful, devastating articulation of relational pain.
Yeah. It means the present conflict was just a pressure release valve.
For years of suppressed expectations and unaddressed wounds, it's the collapse of the entire emotional debt ledger onto a single minor event.
Let's unpack that idea. Emotional debts. Because she says they're the raw material of the cracks.
Yes, she talks about the gestures she's still waiting for, the apologies that never came.
Now, these aren't trivial things. They're not small needs.
No, they are foundational requirements for emotional safety, for a sense of justice in a relationship. And they were never met.
And the soul, as she puts it, doesn't forget.
It keeps a meticulous record. Every single time vulnerability was met with dismissal or defensiveness or just silence, it's all recorded.
And that record keeping explains the lasting damage. She says that when the soul breaks, the heart might eventually mend, but it never quite fits again.
It's an imperfect reconstruction.
Yeah.
The mending process leaves these visible, permanent scars. She describes them as cracks through which the cold seeps in.
What is that cold?
I think that cold is the lingering fear. It's the protective cynicism you develop. It's that deep-seated inability to ever fully trust in the permanence or safety of connection again.
So the cracks represent a shift from vulnerability to self-protection.
Exactly. The repaired heart is fundamentally cautious. It can feel warmth, sure, but it's always aware of the cold lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to seep back in.
And this is where we hit the absolute core, the essential concept of this entire deep dive. The mechanism by which those cracks are created and maintained, the silence that sickens us.
Yeah.
You have to spend some real time on this.
Yeah.
Because this is the point where a personal emotional ache becomes a physiological illness.
This is the absolute crux of Vergara's insight. She identifies the habit that transforms internal pain into chronic physical suffering.
And that habit is staying quiet.
Staying quiet so as not to trouble others. Or that deliberate, often culturally reinforced act of saving tears for later.
That phrase, saving tears for later, it just perfectly encapsulates this toxic pressure we put on ourselves.
It does.
The idea that our pain is an inconvenience, that it has to be scheduled or just ignored for the comfort of others.
It's framed as an act of altruism, of being strong for others, but it's actually an act of self-destruction.
Because the emotional and physiological toll of that suppression is immense.
It is. She states it so plainly, and this is the line we have to keep coming back to. The body remembers.
The silence isn't an empty space.
No, it's a container. And what is left unsaid doesn't just evaporate, it settles inside.
So let's dig into the mechanics of that memory.
Yeah.
How does the body remember what the mouth refuses to speak?
Well, the emotional data we suppress, it doesn't just sit there politely in a corner. It activates our threat response system.
The fight or flight system.
The sympathetic nervous system, exactly. When you save tears, you are essentially telling your body over and over that you are in constant danger, but you cannot flee or fight. You have to freeze. You have to hold it in.
And that sustained low-level activation, what does it do to us?
It means your body is just flooded with stress hormones like cortisol all the time. This chronic state of preparedness, that's the allostatic load we mentioned earlier.
So the body is perpetually tense. It's ready for a threat that never fully materializes because the threat is internal. The threat is the unexpressed emotion itself.
Exactly. The body is always holding its breath, both figuratively and literally. And this high allostatic load is what manifests as the very concrete ailments Vergara describes.
Insomnia, anxiety, the nameless aches.
Insomnia is the nervous system being too activated, too vigilant, to ever fully rest. Anxiety is the constant feeling of impending doom caused by that hormone rush.
And the nameless aches?
That's often a somatization. It's the suppressed emotional narrative finding a physical route to expression.
So a silent grief becomes a concrete ailment.
Yes. It can be chronic muscle tension in your shoulders, it can be tension headaches, it can be digestive distress. It's the soul, prevented from screaming through the mouth, screaming through the fascia and the digestive tract instead.
It's a survival mechanism that's just gone rogue. So if we've spent years, maybe decades, perfecting this art of suppression, where do we even begin to release all that accumulated pressure?
And that leads us right to the necessary and often very painful prescription for release.
Which is?
To speak. Yes. Vergara frames the act of articulation as a radical necessity. She argues, to speak is to open a window.
The silent state is a stagnant, suffocating closed room.
Thick with the weight of the past. To survive, you have to ventilate. You have to let in some air.
But she doesn't paint this rosy picture of immediate relief, does she?
Not at all. She's incredibly realistic.
Yeah.
She acknowledges that opening that window hurts. She warns the listener that the air rushes in like a storm.
Why is that initial act of speaking so destabilizing? It seems counterintuitive.
Because when you finally give voice to suppressed sorrow, you're not just releasing the pain of today. You're releasing the saved tears from months, years, maybe decades ago.
Wow.
That rush, that's the sound of all the accumulated silence finally being shattered. It destabilizes the protective emotional equilibrium you've built, however dysfunctional it might be.
It means confronting the reality of the damage.
Yes. And often the painful realization that the people you speak to, they might still not fully understand. Or worse, they might reject the pain you're finally expressing.
That's a critical point. The fear that opening the window might actually drive away the very people you need.
That fear is immense. And Vergara addresses it implicitly, I think, through her later insistence on self-love.
How so?
The message is that the storm of articulation is necessary for you, for the carrier of the silence. The difficulty of the storm is still preferable to the slow, creeping sickness that comes from keeping the window sealed forever.
So the alternative to the storm is sinking.
Sinking.
Huh?
Metaphorically into hopelessness and literally into chronic physical illness. The difficult, painful truth is the only path that offers genuine self-preservation.
And that active daily choice to confront the risk of the storm, that brings us into section 3, acts of courage and reclaiming self-love. Because if the heart is cracked and the silence is deadly, the work required to survive has to be incredibly deliberate.
It demands consistent, non-negotiable effort. And Vergara illustrates this through her commitment to therapy.
And she's very honest about it. She admits the sessions are highly unpredictable. Sometimes she leaves feeling lighter.
And sometimes she leaves in pieces.
The fact that she acknowledges leaving in pieces is so important. It completely reframes vulnerability.
It does.
It's not about achieving some constant state of feeling good. It's about making space for the messiness of healing.
Absolutely. The consistency is the key metric here, not the outcome of any single session. She goes, because if I don't, I sink.
So this continuous, often agonizing process.
Yeah.
This is what she defines as self-love.
Yes. It is not allowing sorrow to have the final word. And that reclaims the concept of self-love from, superficial wellness trends about bubble baths and face masks.
Right.
And it grounds it in the difficult, ongoing work of internal maintenance, recovery, and confrontation. It is the ultimate act of self-responsibility.
So if the cracked heart requires this ongoing maintenance, the material that often fills those cracks is memory. And Vergara explores a very complex aspect of healing when she talks about grief, specifically missing her mother without idealizing her.
This is such a vital distinction. This is mature grief. This is real relational healing.
Because we are so culturally prone to sanitizing the deceased, or even just distant loved ones. We remove their shadows, their difficult qualities.
We turn them into saints. But true healing requires integration, not sanitation. Vergara understands the complex grief of loving a flawed person.
So why is it so essential to acknowledge the shadows for true remembrance?
Because if you only miss the idealized version of the person, you can't integrate the pain or the wound that person left behind.
You're denying a part of your own experience.
Exactly. By remembering the mother with her shadows, the source implies that the pain caused by those shadows is also validated. It's real. It's part of the story.
When you remember the full person, the good and the bad, to remember is also to heal.
It means accepting the relationship for what it truly was, not what you needed it to be.
And the conclusion she draws from this is it's so powerful for anyone whose family relationships have been less than perfect, which is most of us.
Right.
Love does not need to be perfect to be real. It only needs to remain.
The enduring presence of that feeling, even if it's contradictory, even if it's complicated, that is the victory.
It allows you, the listener, to move past the burden of seeking perfection. We hold ourselves in emotional limbo, waiting for a perfect apology or a perfect relationship.
And Vergara grants permission to just accept that love in its flawed, enduring state is enough to build forward from.
And this leads to a really crucial moment of shared experience in her writing, her direct validation for the listener. She addresses those who carry this quiet ache, those who feel their heart no longer mends the same way, or those who find that simply breathing is an act of courage.
This is where her deeply personal narrative just blossoms into a universal truth. She understands that for someone managing chronic sorrow and anxiety, waking up and performing the basic function of respiration requires a deliberate act of will.
It is not hyperbole.
Not at all. It's a physical reality for the burdened soul.
And her message, which she delivers from one silence to another, is this quiet but powerful affirmation.
You are not alone.
You are not alone. And crucially, you are not weak for feeling deeply. She reminds us that so many of us are still piecing ourselves together, just breathing gently through those painful absences.
It confirms that the cracked heart is a shared human condition. Its existence is proof of depth, not deficiency.
And that shared vulnerability, that's the necessary bridge to our final section, isn't it?
It is. We pull back from Vergara's personal narrative to look at the broader sociological context of this isolation.
We move from the personal consequence of silence to the societal mechanism that reinforces it.
And to do that, we draw on the external perspective of secular Buddhism through the lens of a writer named Lucas Casanova.
Okay, so let's look at Casanova's challenge to what he sees as a cultural myth, the myth of self-sufficiency. In so much of modern Western society, we are intensely trained to see need, the need for support, for comfort, for connection, as a sign of being broken.
Or lacking self-love. If you just loved yourself enough, you wouldn't need anyone else.
Right. This cultural conditioning tells us that true strength is being an isolated, fully functional unit.
And Casanova just fundamentally dismantles this myth. He has this sharp counter-argument. Since when was humanity measured by isolation?
He reframes the entire discussion.
Completely. He says, to need is not a weakness. It is profoundly human. We are biologically and historically tribal creatures. The idea of isolated strength is a recent, and I would argue, damaging absurdity imposed by modern individualism.
So if we accept that needing others is human, why do so many of us, like Vergara, retreat into that paralyzing, quiet loneliness, even when connection is technically available?
Casanova offers a psychological explanation for that, and it's rooted in past relationship wounds.
He identifies loneliness as a silent epidemic.
Yes, and he focuses on the wounded nervous system. When we experience repeated relational trauma, betrayal, conditional love, just being consistently unseen, our nervous system adapts to protect itself.
So it learns.
It learns. It becomes conditioned to associate closeness with potential pain. And so the system then makes these tragic but logical miscalculations in its pursuit of safety.
What are those specific miscalculations? How does a wounded nervous system convince us to seek isolation?
It actively teaches us to mistake silence for peace, to mistake distance for safety, and to mistake isolation for strength.
Wow.
If vulnerability in your past led to emotional abandonment or further injury, your amygdala, your brain's alarm system, it learns that withdrawing is the safest survival strategy.
So we start to actively engineer environments of emotional scarcity because they feel predictable.
They're predictable. Even if we feel cold and lonely in them, we are at least safe from the sudden, sharp pain of relational injury.
So we build this protective fortress of silence and distance, and we believe we're being strong.
When in fact, we're just managing a chronic state of low-grade fear.
And this explains why we hide, even when we're surrounded by others.
Precisely. And Casanova details the modern forms of hiding. Retreating behind screens, offering words that don't meet the eyes.
Substituting genuine connection with, as he says, digital ties that never quite embrace.
We trade the high-impact nutrient of authentic presence for the low-calorie, predictable, safe interaction of a screen.
But the soul, the body, it still has that deep biological hunger. Even if the mind believes isolation is safety, the body requires connection to regulate itself.
And that hunger, it demands real presence. It demands eye contact. It demands tenderness.
Those are the cues that tell the nervous system, I am safe now.
Exactly. Our bodies are built for co-regulation. When we make eye contact, when we share space without an agenda, our heart rates and our nervous systems literally begin to synchronize. Tenderness is the signal that the threat is gone. It allows the allostatic load to finally drop.
So the chronic illness of the quiet ache persists because the nervous system is starved of these essential regulatory inputs.
It's starved.
So if the problem is rooted in this conditioned response to protect ourselves through isolation, the path back, the healing, it must be deliberate and, frankly, terrifying.
It is. You're reversing years of self-protective programming.
And the Buddhist perspective referenced here is clear about the path.
It is. The path is not to harden further, not to become more cynical, or to achieve some kind of stoic self-sufficiency.
The path is to return to the world.
To return to the world. To re-engage with connection. But to do so without surrendering to cynicism. And that means accepting the risk of injury again.
That sounds simple, but for someone whose heart is already cracked, daring to trust again, that feels like inviting the storm right back in.
It does. Which is why the practical commitment Casanova suggests is about starting small. Healing begins when we dare to trust again, but that trust isn't a huge leap.
It's a small step.
It's a small step. We are working to heal what he calls the ancient wound, the feeling that made us believe we didn't belong in the first place, that we were too much trouble, that our needs were a burden.
And you heal that through small, repeated exposures to vulnerability that successfully result in safety.
And that allows the nervous system to slowly, carefully rewrite its learned fear response.
And the final encouragement from this perspective, it acknowledges the sheer difficulty of this undertaking. It's okay if you, the listener, don't know how to reconnect yet. This is a learning curve for all of us.
We are collectively learning to say hello again, which means simple, present, non-superficial acknowledgement. We're learning to talk without a screen.
And most crucially, we are learning to belong without losing ourselves.
That's such a key point. The fear of connection is often tied to the fear of emotional absorption, the fear that belonging will demand we sacrifice the hard-won self we pieced back together in our isolation.
But true belonging requires integration, not sacrifice.
Yes.
But the underlying truth, the biological and human truth, it remains. We were made to connect.
We were.
And the power of Vergara's quiet reflection and Casanova's external analysis, it all synthesizes into this single, hopeful thought.
Centered on the endurance of the heart.
Even the one that is cracked.
The cracked heart. The one that no longer mends perfectly. It still beats. That rhythmic persistence is the core source of hope. And while it beats, there is potential.
Because life, with all its cracks, is still somehow beautiful.
The cracks are proof of survival. They are now part of the landscape. They aren't indicators of a total final failure. They are scars that can eventually, slowly be filled with the necessary support that helps us finally speak the words we saved for later.
This deep dive into C.V. Vergara's sources has been, well, it's been a powerful, reflective journey, a necessary reminder of the courage it takes just to articulate internal sorrow and the immense toll that silence exacts from us.
If the body remembers, as she says, then the work of healing must begin with giving a voice to what has been suppressed for so long.
And we hope this encourages you, our listener, to maybe just gently examine where you might be habitually saving tears, where you might be maintaining a silence to your own detriment.
If that window needs to be opened, even if the air rushes in like a storm, please know that that initial blast of confrontation is essential for clearing the room. It's the beginning of breathing again.
We have to leave you today the final, deeply personal words from the writer herself, Vanina Vergara, as she signs off on her reflection.
I am Vanina Vergara, C.V. Vergara, to the English-speaking world, born in Asunción, Paraguay. I have 3 children whom I love deeply, and this is my life. I read letters sent to vergaravanina@yahoo.com.